Well, good morning, everyone. I'm pleased to be your speaker this morning on this musical, wonderful Sunday. I'm Carol Schultz. I'm a licensed Unity teacher here at our Unity of Columbia. And when I was first approached to speak up on the third Sunday of Advent, that Sunday we all know is emphasizing love, I thought, well, that should be easy. I mean, Chris and Cherry had to speak about the gifts of Christmas and really dig deep and find what that meant to her. And last Sunday, Anne's talk about the gifts from Joseph really dug deep and made me think of things I hadn't thought of before. So I thought, well, Mary, we all know, the essence of the gift of Mary is love. So what could go wrong? However, Mary and love have so much written about them. The challenge is to find that essence. What is it that I can really say? I mean, we only have 10 to 15 minutes. So the stories of Mary report that she pondered in her heart. And those are kind of one of the gifts I got from her is that you take things in and you ponder in your heart. So I imagined her going into meditation and reflecting on all the things that she was experiencing. And so I started asking different people over the last month, what is your conception of Mary? And what do you think of Mary and the concept of the Virgin Mary? And many people I spoke to said, well, she was the mother of Jesus, but she really didn't play that much of a part in my growing up, or I never thought of her. One of my Baptist friends that I work with a lot said, well, Mary was not even hardly mentioned or noticed, just it was always Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. And of course, Catholics have a very different view of Mary. So many Catholic friends either had very fond memories or some other memories that weren't so fond of the Virgin Mary in their upbringing. In my Lutheran household, in my younger years, Mary was mentioned, but she was not emphasized at all because, of course, that was a Catholic thing. And we thought that Catholics worshiped Mary, and of course, that broke the first commandment, of course, which thou shalt have no other gods before me. And so we didn't really emphasize Mary, and she wasn't very important except to the group of third graders in our parochial school about who was going to be chosen to play the Virgin Mary in the Christmas pageant. And I'm happy to report that I got to play the Virgin Mary when I was 8 years old. So that was a great honor. And that was about all that I had really thought about Mary, too. But we know that part of our spiritual journey is, as we come to our spiritual maturity, is to come to terms with our past, with our upbringings, what we've learned in the past, and to integrate those into our current daily life and really come to honor those memories and those teachings, because after all, we're all here today as seekers in unity, aren't we? Either looking deeper into our own beliefs or seeking for other new beliefs. And I also thought of the fact that we sometimes speak of those people who come to unity either as immigrants or refugees. And many people come as immigrants. They're coming to seek deeper parts, more understanding, more insight into their life's journey and spiritual teaching. And they come willingly and are very open and receptive to learning all kinds of new things. And some people come as refugees from abusive backgrounds and what I call Bible bashing, or some abusive and not so positive aspects of the dogma that they were taught. So some of the refugees carry a lot of baggage, and that's what a lot of us are healing as we come to unity and learn new insights and new ways of thinking. And so I hope some of you immigrants will give some of us refugees some space sometimes as we work through some of these things that we have been taught in the past. Come with an open mind, and we're all here to learn. So whether you're an immigrant or a refugee, Mary does have many gifts to offer us, I believe. And of course, we associate Mary with mother love. And everybody also doesn't have the same or a very positive recognition of their own mother, biological or otherwise. And so we've learned as we grow and mature that we can call upon that higher spiritual mother love to heal ourselves, to mother our inner child. And we find those substitutes, either a beloved friend, an aunt, a therapist, who can really provide that insight for us and make us feel that unconditional love. So Whether we run into a person related to us, a chosen friend, or a therapist, it makes us feel that we are getting to know ourselves better, knowing that there's someone and something that we can go deep inside to do our own spiritual healing. And that's one of the benefits of being in a spiritual community like Unity, as we experienced yesterday, where we were all enfolded in that unconditional love and acceptance for our fellow travelers on life's journey. Well, for my generation anyway, that iconic Paul McCartney song about Let It Be was what first kind of entered my consciousness as Mary as a universal mother figure. And I was surprised at how much that had entered my consciousness without me even really realizing it. Because when I think of Mother, Mary, Mother of God, or the Virgin Mary, I usually think of that song, Let It Be. And it was known in the, I went to our all-knowing source, Wikipedia, to find the story. And so at the time, it said Paul McCartney was suffering from some anxiety because it was right before the breakup of the Beatles. And so he woke up with a nightmare one night. He was having a bad dream. And then as he calmed down, he said his mother, Mary McCartney, who had passed away when Paul was only 14, came to him as a benevolent apparition in a slumber. And as McCartney puts it, she was reassuring me, saying, "It's going to be okay, just let it be." And he said, it felt so great. It gave me positive words. So I wrote the song, Let It Be. Well, I had never really known that because I kind of associated that song with Mary, the Mother of God, Virgin Mary. But he says, no, it reminds me of my own earthly mother. And in times of trouble, she does come to me. Just a few of the lyrics. When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. And in my hour of darkness, she is standing right in front of me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. And so I realized that that was kind of the idea I had of Mary as the all-knowing, all-loving mother. And even though the Catholic Church doesn't call her a goddess, as I was growing and reading more, as I was studying my own spiritual path and started looking at some of the myths and stories of the goddesses, Mary really does fill that role. She's really revered. She possesses a lot of clout. She has a lot of divine connections and magical healing powers of a goddess. And she's afforded a worshipful reverence and prayer of the divine feminine. So I really came to appreciate Mary in the Catholic tradition because as we go through the ages, we can see that the Catholic Church did really hold on to that aspect of the divine feminine that was spoken about earlier. We all have that divine feminine and the divine masculine in us. And with all the patriarchy in the world, Mary stood out as the example and our hanging on to the divine feminine. Well, what about the Christmas story and Mary's place in it? As you go through the spiritual education and enrichment program at Unity, you learn that you usually look at things in three ways in each story. First is just the facts. You know, what are the facts? Here are the details of the story. Second, you look for a moral, or, like Aesop's fables. What's the moral of this story? And then thirdly, you look for the metaphysical meaning. That's what's underlying. What does this really mean to me spiritually today? And so just as a simple story, the Christmas story is really an iconic story. It's one of the things that we don't like to really mess with. And if you leave out a detail here or there, somebody may get a little upset. Well, you forgot the angels, you forgot the wise men. But it's not about the actual story. This is a story that takes us back to our childhood, or maybe very happy, content, safe, beautiful memories. And so I don't want to mess too much with the actual details of the story. There's a wonderful book called The Trip to Bethlehem, or you can put in line metaphysical meaning of the Christmas story, and you'll find tons of resources to guide you on your way there. But we don't want to let all the challenges of figuring out what's true and what's false, what's really going on, to get in the way of our love of that story and the metaphysical meaning. One of the great teachers at Unity Village over the years was Ed Rabel, and I found this quote from him. Ed Rabel says, I think the truth about the Christmas story is in the people. In other words, there is not such a thing as a Christmas story as an event which happened. The biological state of Mary's body is not the point. It might have been or might not have been, but that's not the point. Then we have the mysteries of the other symbols. What about the star? Was it an actual star that behaved that way? Where did those angelic voices come from? There must have been angels if there were voices. Nobody can prove or disprove any of it. What is the only thing a person can do in regard to it? Believe it or not. That is all. Rather than dispute the historical facts or possibilities, it is better, I feel, that we give our attention merely to the metaphysical meaning of the key symbols as they are contained in the records we have in the Gospels. So I started looking at all of these, and there's tons of that, but I want to just focus kind of on the Virgin Mary. Why do we call her the Virgin Mary? And in our book that's called The Revealing Word that explains things metaphysically, says Virgin Mary symbolizes a spiritually quickened intuition and the feeling nature in a positive state. When the feeling nature is in this state, that is virginity. And in this Christmas story, metaphysically, the birth can only be a virgin birth because Mary represents a pure, unselfish desire to know the truth of being, to know the truth of who and what we are as spiritual beings. So that doesn't mean our whole soul must be free of all the negative desire or even other positive desires, but it does mean that there must be at least one sincere, unselfish desire to know the truth. In many people, Mary hasn't even been born yet, it goes on to say, but she has been born in many, and she is about to or already has given birth to the Christ child. So I believe that the song Let It Be planted that seed of the Mary, the universal mother, the mother of that Christ spirit within us, within a lot of people who are now just awakening to that spirituality within them. And Mary represents that complete trust, a complete willingness in the absence of resistance that causes a soul to come to a state of purity. This kind of purity is completely trusting in spiritual intuition, and it's from that state that the Christ can be born in us. Well, I've heard it said, and I've said it over the years in talks and classes, that the Christmas story, the story of Mary and all the other symbols, is to remind us of that Christ spirit being born in us again, reborn in us. Well, I found a quote from Eric Butterworth, one of our great spiritual teachers, that made me think of this in a different way. He says, speaking of our own Christ nature, rather than saying it is born again, it is better to say that it reaches greater levels of intensity and clarity and assumes a greater and greater place in our overall existence. I would say, and he says this is just a reaction from the top of my head, that its actual birth is a one-time thing for each individual human being, that it's a plateau that is reached in each individual's evolution. So it does not mean that once it's born, we all have a clear sight of it and awareness of it. We often will lose sight of it and awareness of it. So it's not that Christ is being reborn in us, it's that it's being renewed and revived. And then it was a great day. It's a great day when Jesus was born. We're all celebrating that. But it's a great day when we realize and recognize that Christ spirit being born in us. And I'm always reminded of that when we speak our vision and mission statement. Our vision statement, we celebrate a spiritually awakened world. Well, what are we really talking about? We're talking about the awakening of that divine love in the world, that divine love that Mary birthed through the Spirit of Christ. And in our mission, we inspire the awakening and practice of divine love in every heart. Here we even mention divine love, which reminds us of the gifts of Mary. And we can't just be content with it reviving and regrowing in us. We have to let that Spirit of Christ grow in us, just as Mary nurtured that baby Jesus on the physical plane, nurtured him to adulthood, and guided him in adulthood with the many stories we have. We let that Christ spirit grow in our hearts and become our experience every day. So our new birth, or our renewal of our birth, isn't just a psychological or emotional response. It's a dynamic spiritual experience that leads to a marvelous transformation in our lives. So we take these gifts of Mary, that consciousness of divine love, universal love, human and spiritual, that birthed that Christ within us. And it was Jesus' mission to reveal to us the truth of our being, that we are more than flesh and blood. We're spiritual beings, and it's when this great spiritual truth is born in us that we really begin to live. And for this realization, it's essential to our ongoing spiritual development. So in closing, I want to just read some of these lyrics that are so meaningful to us as the bells get ready. When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. And in my hour of darkness, she is standing right in front of me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. Then the chorus, and when the broken-hearted people living in the world agree, there will be an answer, let it be. For though they may be parted, there is still a chance that they will see. There will be an answer, let it be. Then it goes in the chorus. And when the night is cloudy, there is still a light that shines on me, shining until tomorrow, let it be. I wake up to the sound of music. Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. So let us let it be this Christmas, that Mother Mary spirit growing in our own heart. And we'll now get to experience the bells again. O come, Emmanuel.